Good evening, everybody. Apostle Bernard Boulton. I know it's been a while since I've been on. I trust you're having an incredible week and you're getting ready to observe Shabbat on tomorrow. Shabbat is a day of rest, a day to re-energize, to get strengthened for the next week. Well, I'm at Starbucks in Fort Mills, and you know, Starbucks has become my second favorite place. My first favorite place, well, of course, my first favorite place is my house, okay? My second favorite place is the public library, and so Starbucks is number 3. I love coming to Starbucks. I love getting a caramel mocha at least once a week. I don't overdo it because, you know, Starbucks is not inexpensive, but it's just one of the few ways I get to splurge. So I'm here at Starbucks on my way to work. It's Friday night. I'm normally off on Friday night, but it's mandatory for me to go in tonight, and I really appreciate that since I had the holiday off this week, so I get to make up time that I lost for the holiday. But I wanted to give a prophetic perspective on Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is currently where I live. I've been living here now for a year and a half, and I was talking today, and I was and the Lord really just led me really to just release this. It's not just a prophetic word, but it's a prophetic perspective, because I believe it's a perspective not only for Fort Mill, but for many cities, many towns throughout the United States. And the Lord started to, when I moved here, and even before I moved here, the Lord began to speak to me and teach me about the wealth DNA that is deposited in Fort Mill. Now, Fort Mill is not a very large town, but it's considered a suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's about 20 minutes, maybe 15 miles south of Charlotte, right on Interstate 77. And so the Lord began to really challenge me and teach me rather, about the wealth DNA that is deposited, that has been deposited in Fort Mill. And some of you may not know the history of Fort Mill, but Fort Mill was actually the town that the Bakers moved to. Jim and Tammy Baker moved here in the 70s to build what would become known as PTL, or Praise the Lord Network. And the Lord says when the Bakers moved to this area, that what they built here before corruption came in and ended that movement, what they built here was a true expression of the kingdom of God coming in the earth. And we know that the prayer, Jesus told us to pray. Jesus told us to pray, let your will be done in earth as it is in heaven. And so PTL was actually an expression of heaven in the earth. And because of the work that was done, not only by the Bakers, but by their partners and by the kingdom community, and the Lord wanted me to make a distinction that PTL was not a church. It was not a religious movement, but it was a kingdom expression, and it was a kingdom movement. It went beyond church. It went beyond denominations. It went beyond race, culture. It transcended all of that to bring an expression of the kingdom of God in the earth for that time. And so, unfortunately, corruption came in, and that movement ended. Of course, Jim Baker went to jail, but the wealth DNA that was deposited in this land is still here. And so, when God brought me here, when God called me here, my call was specifically an apostolic call. I was sent into this region to build a community of creative artists, to build a community of kingdom artists known as WOW, or Watchmen on Walls Fellowship. But there's been a real struggle for for the manifestation, even though it's the will of God. It's the will of God for the wealth in this land to manifest, and for there to be another kingdom movement to rise up in Fort Mill and in the Carolinas region. It's God's will, but it is not manifesting because there are two spirits operating against the wealth manifestation, or against his wealth DNA. And that's what the Lord wanted me to talk about today, because these two spirits, which are territorial spirits, principalities, whenever we talk about spirit, we're talking about not just a demon, but we're also talking about a mindset. Okay, and the two spirits that's operating against the wealth DNA in this region is the spirit of poverty and the spirit of religion, which those two spirits often work together. Okay, spirit of religion, which is in this instance is a different manifestation, but then the spirit of poverty is a spirit that does not trust God for sufficiency, or does not have a belief in God for abundance. Okay, and so the Lord wanted me to really challenge that, because one of the ways that the spirit of poverty is operating in this land, and I'm seeing it, not only am I seeing it, I'm somewhat experiencing it, even though my mind, my mind is on the kingdom. But there are many persons in this region who have been captured by the spirit of poverty, and so they are just being challenged. Okay, they don't have enough, or they don't believe they'll ever have enough. See, the poverty spirit is not just manifested in a lack of money. It's not just manifesting I don't have the money. It's manifesting in I don't believe I'll ever have. I don't believe God will ever give to me. I don't believe that God will supply all of my needs. Okay, so the spirit of poverty actually operates against faith, and it maximizes your current reality, which doesn't have to be your life. Okay, so the Lord began to really open my eyes to see how this spirit is really working against the wealth that has been deposited in this land. And then, of course, the religious spirit is operating primarily through the church. And I'm shocked, because when I moved here, I expected, I had a great expectation to see an apostolic prophetic movement in this region. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not seeing it. And even many of the churches where apostles and prophets are leading, and not just churches, but even in the movements where apostles and prophets are leading, they shy away from identifying themselves as apostle and prophets. They still operate under that pastoral paradigm, which really is a dying paradigm, if I can be honest. Churches that are led by pastors are not building churches. They're not churches full of revelation. Okay, it was not God's intention, but God permitted it in the history of the church. It was never God's intention for the gift of the pastor to be the lead gift in the church. The church was built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets. So now that we're in the restoration of these gifts, we're seeing the restoration of the prophets since the 1980s. We're seeing the restoration of the apostles since the 1990s. Those that are operating under that pastoral paradigm, that paradigm is dying. It's ineffective. Okay, so there's a few ministries that I have identified. I won't say their names, but they are led by apostles and prophets, but they're still operating under a pastoral paradigm. And that's really the spirit of religion that's keeping the wealth DNA from manifesting in the people of God. I had a meeting last week, the WOW meeting for the month of July, and I asked the question, which wasn't planned. I asked the question, how many persons in that meeting was from this area, had been born and raised here in the area, and there was no one. So everyone who was in the WOW meeting was a transplant into this area, and I have met so many people. I've met so many people in this region that's not from this region. They were sent. Okay, all right. So I got to get out of here. Okay. So God is sending people into this area. He's sending them to create, to innovate, and to build. And until the apostolic and the prophetic come forth in a greater manner, then that will not take place. That won't take place. Okay. So the wealth DNA is not manifesting because the apostolic and prophetic is not coming forth. And that may be true in your region as well. So we've got to really embrace this new wineskin. Okay, we got to embrace the apostolic, the apostles, and the prophets, and we have to become an apostolic and a prophetic people so that we can release the wealth that God has deposited in the land. That's why I'm here. Great warfare, because the enemy doesn't want the wealth. It doesn't want the wealth to come forth. It doesn't want the wealth to be administrated by the people of God. But this is the will of God, and it must come to pass, and God's people must get ready for it. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us. I hear the Lord saying, for you, Rebecca, I hear the Lord saying that He has positioned you to be the head, and there's new movements that's coming forth in your life. And the Lord says He wants you to prepare for that, and He wants you to believe for it. Though there's been a lot of discouragement in your life regarding this promotion. And listen, when God promotes you, you are promoted. It doesn't matter what man says about you. When God elevates you, you are elevated. And the Lord says He has elevated you, and there's new movements that's beginning to break forth in your life, and there's new thinking and new ideas. So you are called in this season, Rebecca. And I don't personally know you, but the Lord says that you are called to create, and you are called to operate in a position of the place of promotion. God bless you. All right, we'll be seeing y'all. Take care.